Hello everybody, my name is Lawrence, I also go by Lemon, I'm your coach of the Houston Overdrive, and today we are starting up our Season 3 draft analysis of the Random Draft League. If you remember, in the Season 2, I only uploaded our playoff run, and we actually came out on top, and we are the Season 2 champion. This season, though, we are leading off very interestingly. This season, we do not have anything baton pass. You can't baton pass any stats or substitute. There are no Z moves, and it's just a regular 11 Pokemon, 1 Mega Draft. The one key difference, though, is that these 4 free agent Pokemon, they are random. You can pick your tiers, but the ones you get are completely random. And because of the way this draft works, I'm actually just going to go in order of tiers instead of what order I picked, because that got a little bit confusing. But leading off, we have our Mega Pokemon, Juggernaut the Heracross. I am so excited to use Heracross. I think this thing is a major steal at a Tier 3 Mega, giving me an extra 20 points in the draft, which I don't actually need, but it was very helpful having that option and giving me the option to do so later. This thing is very powerful with base 185 attack, 115 defense, I think, and 105 special defense. Skill Link ability makes multi-hit moves guaranteed to hit their maximum number of times. So Bullet Seed hits 5 times, Rock Blast hits 5 times, Pin Missile hits 5 times. Basically means that all 3 of those attacks are 125 power. And it being slower than most things in the game mean that you can't just set up a substitute on it. You have to be careful. It also does have close combat, spikes, knockoff, uh, a lot of other pretty good things. It's got Swords Dance too to boost its attack, which it does not need, but having that option is really good. Having Curse is pretty good too because it is very slow already. So being able to up that attack and defense and make it easier for you to break subs is really good. But I'm pretty sure it also gets bulk up, so Curse isn't as great. This thing though with the bug and fighting type is probably its typing isn't super great, honestly isn't, especially not with the new move Dual Wing Beat, but it's still a very powerful Pokemon, and I am so excited to use this as my Mega. With our Tier 1, though, we have got Nike the Victini with Fire and Psychic typing. This thing has the most powerful Fire-type move in the game with V-Create. 180 power, lowers attack, defense, and speed by 1 stage. Still insanely powerful. Its ability Victory Star boosts its accuracy, making it so that Bolt Strike has 91 accuracy, I think. Fire Blast and Blue Flare has more accuracy. It makes everything more likely to land, and with all of the moves it has that check accuracy, this thing is just powerful. It also does have things like U-Turn. It's a mixed attacker with base 100 stats all across the board. I think this is really, really powerful, and I'm so excited to use this, especially in pair with Heracross, because the only weakness that this thing does not resist, Heracross is weak to Fire, Psychic, Flying, Fairy, and something else, I think. But the only one that Victini does not resist of those weaknesses is Flying, which is so good. Makes it very easy to switch in from Heracross to Victini on most situations. Moving on, though, we do have Dundee the Crocodile. This was originally Nidoking, but later on with the draft, I decided to go with Crocodile. I got a pretty. I actually really like Crocodile with the Dark and Ground typing. Having that Intimidate ability makes it so that physical attackers can have to be more careful. Having Moxie is also really, really good. Moxie is a great ability for offensive. It's a knockoff user. It's got Stealth Rocks too, and Earthquake, Stone Age. It's got pretty good coverage with, I think it's got Fire Fang, Thunder Fang too. Good coverage though, very powerful. Good typing too. It's a really good typing, especially to pair with Victini. Not much else to say though. It's a really good knockoffer and pretty good Pokemon to use with Intimidate. Going on though, we do have Hydro the Vaporeon. I went with Vaporeon for the same reason I did in another league, because it absorbs water type attacks, it heals my team, It just does a bunch of things, and I really like it. It does have the new move flip turn, giving me pivoting option, and I think it's just a really good mon. And not much else to say, honestly, about this Pokemon. It's really just here to take hits really, really well. Pairs with Victini pretty well, considering that it's neutral. It's neutral to all hits that Victini is weak to. But yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna speed through this because I am really excited to go on to this. I want to start team building as soon as possible. Next up, though, we do have Locke, our Klefki with Steel and Fairy typing, our first hazard removal option. This is here for the Prankster Thunder Waves and Defogs and Light Screen Reflects. It also does have pretty decent coverage actually. Steel and Fairy is a really good type. Not a whole lot to say about this Pokemon, but the fact that it is a Prankster Defogger is really nice. Yeah, I mean, it's here to annoy my opponents mainly, cause like it's a good utility Pokemon. I just wish it had a pivoting option, but that's gonna stay the same. I'm really happy with Klefki. With our tier 4 though, we do have Weiss the Frostlass with the Ice and Ghost typing. This was originally Delmise, but as the draft finished up, I realized I had a major weakness to ice, so I needed an ice resist, but I wanted to keep it ghost, and I already had fire, and so I just went with an ice type. Very, very fast with base 110 speed. Allows me to go for Destiny Bonds and Shadow Ball and Draining Kisses too. It's got pretty good coverage. It's a special attacker. For some reason though, it doesn't get freeze dry, which kind of bothers me. I feel like it really should. Um, but even then, like it's still a good option. It's got spikes, it's got Thunder Wave, and Shadow Ball is a good move too, and it's a good mon. It's a good tier 4, it definitely is. Got Curse Body too, is a really good ability. I think its other ability is Snow Cloak, which isn't terrible, but not easy for me to use. Moving on though, at our tier 5, we have Goob the Sliggoo with the Dragon typing. I really needed an option to take things like Grassy Terrain boosted Rillaboom. So Sliggoo is here for exactly that, giving me a Dragon type, a Sap Sipper. It's got Hydration, so I can go for like rest sets if my opponent has a rain team, which I'm actually really excited to do that. Yeah, it's a good mon, and with the Eviolite, it's very, very bulky with base 110 special defense, or 105, I think. I don't know. But it gives me a Dragon type. It gives me a very defensive Dragon type, which is what I cared about more, because my team, surprisingly, like I don't really care about having Dragon. I don't like using Dragon type moves a whole lot. But yeah, this thing's here just to take things like Grassy Glides and help deal with Rillaboom and stuff, and I think it's going to be a good tier 5. It's definitely a good one, and I think it's going to be really helpful for me to have something this bulky on my team. Next up, though, with our first random Pokemon, we have Mojumbo the Tangrowth. Completely random. We got a very good Grass type at tier 2. With knockoff Leech Seed, Power Whip, and Sludge Bomb, and Giga Drain stuff, and Regenerator is a great ability, keeping this thing alive. It's got incredible defense, very good attack and special attack, making it a very powerful mixed attacker. Really bad special defense, but I think that pairs pretty okay with things like Frostlass and Sliggoo, especially since Sliggoo resists all hits that, actually not all, but most. Actually, not most, but it's a very good defensive option with Tangrowth, and I feel like Tangrowth was a really, really good tier 2 for us to grab. Yeah, it's really just here to fire off Leech Seed to make physical attackers more difficult for my opponent to deal with. And yeah, I mean, it kind of does Clefy kind of things. It just takes hits and just lives for a long time. Moving on though with our next random free agent Pokemon, it was another tier 2. We got Staraptor, aka Edge, with the normal and flying type. I really like Staraptor, and I'm really glad that I got it here. I needed a normal type. I really wanted a flying type, and this was just perfect. This was the absolute perfect one to get. Because of all the normal flyings in tier 2, actually, I'm pretty sure this is the only normal flying in Tier 2, but of all the normal flyings in the game, I am glad it was this one. Having the Intimidate ability is really good, makes physical attackers even more difficult for for opponents to use. And it's pretty powerful with things like Brave Bird, Double Edge, Reckless ability, making those moves boosted. It does have recovery and defog, and yeah, I mean, it's a good mon, and I'm really happy that I got it. This is one of my favorite. This is probably my favorite regional bird for sure. I think it's awesome. Intimidate is super good for my team, especially considering I have Sliggoo, a not very physically defensive Pokemon. Having 2 Intimidators just makes it super easy to use. Moving on though, with our next free agent Pokemon was a Tier 3. We got Weeble the Hitmontop. I actually really wanted Hitmontop, despite already having Heracross. But yeah, this thing's another Intimidate user. It's a Rapid Spin Pokemon. It's got great coverage. It's got the brand new move Triple Axle, which is crazy good, especially with Technician. Like, oh my gosh, it's ridiculously good. Dragon types, beware. Intimidate is super helpful with that really high special defense too. Having 3 Intimidate Pokemon on my team is just hilarious and great. Yeah, I mean, it's just this Hitmontop things. It's got Bullet Punch and Mach Punch, I believe. It's got Fake Out. Intimidate is just a super great ability. Technician, if I want to go super offensive, it does have setup ability. The main thing here, though, is that it is a Rapid Spinner, and I think that Hitmontop was a great thing for my team to get. And finally, we have got Crow, the Haunch Crow with Dark and Flying type. Yeah, this last slot was very bad for me. I originally got Machamp, which made my fairy weakness incredibly high. And then I got Hitmonlee, staying the same. And then I got Honchkrow, which isn't terrible. Especially since considering that at the time I actually didn't have a dark type. It was originally just Nidoking, but I switched it. It's got good coverage. Moxie's a good ability. Super Luck's a good ability. It's got priority with Sucker Punch. It's a mixed attacker. It's got Roost and Defog, and yeah, I mean it's a good mon. I kind of needed a Steel type, and there was one in that tier that was really great for my team, and I was really hoping to get it. But I'm gonna be really trying to re-roll this Pokemon like pretty much every chance I can for that one Pokemon that I want from Tier 4. I could have gotten different tiers, but I felt like there were just a lot of good options in all 3 tiers that I wanted. I wanted 2 Tier 2s because there were a lot of really good Tier 2s left. Tier 3, there were a pretty large amount of them that were good for my team. And then Tier 4 was just the highest that I could afford with those points. But yeah, this is our team for the Random Draft League. I'm pretty happy with it, honestly. I think that physical attackers can just back away because this team is just so ridiculously hard to break with the amount of Intimidators I have and defensive Pokemon I have with Tangrowth and Vaporeon and Sliggoo. Klefki's really good for my team, giving me that Steel-type Defogger. Yeah, I'm really not worried about like ground moves at all, considering I have 1 weakness and I have 2 weaknesses, 2 resists, and 2 immunities, but Klefki does have that Prankster Magnet Rise too, making it immune to those ground type moves. And then I can just switch out into Victini to take the fire type moves. It's great. There's no reason I'm not worried about ground types in any way. Again, having 3 Intimidate Pokemon is just so great. Oh my gosh, it makes it super hard for physical attackers to deal with my team, and it just forces special attackers, which is great considering I have Sliggoo with Eviolite boosted special defense, and Frostlass is kind of especially bulky. I mean, it's not like Mismagius with that base of 105, but it's not terrible either. And Vaporeon having 130 base HP, and I think it's like 110 base special defense. I don't know, base 90 or something. I don't know. But yeah, I think this team is super. It's just going to be so hard to break through, and I think it's going to be super great, and it's going to really throw my opponents off. Team growth, the random tiers we got were so good. Our first three were great, and then the last one was just unfortunately bad. But honestly, I think with the team that we ended up getting, I think I'm fine with it. Hansgrohe is a good Mon, one of the better ones out of tier 4. Murkrow was also in there, and I was actually originally planning for Murkrow in tier 5 or tier 4 pick, but I'm kind of happy with. Actually, no, I think it was a tier 5. I don't know. But I'm pretty happy with this team. I think it's going to be pretty good. It's going to be a pretty good team. Moxie is pretty great, and having so many like foul play users is really good for my team. I think the biggest thing I am worried about here is my flying weakness, seeing as I have 2 fighting types and 1 resist, um, or